Yeah, yeah. All right. Saw 23 of them things, man. 23 songs. How long was this project?
Hour and a half, I think.
Yeah, hour 25. Yeah, basically hour and a half. Do you wanna get into the discourse about the album in totality before the ranking and the grade?
We can.
Okay. I will get mine out the way first. I don't think it's really bad though, but this is not a bad album whatsoever. I think for Drake, and I think people get upset because people uh, will criticize, but people are gonna always have something to say or break down or analyze about Drake's album. But I think that just comes with being one of the top artists. Like it's gonna always be a discussion. So I don't think that should be a knock because we do hold him to a bit of a higher standard because we've seen what he can create. And I think that what we've gotten into with a lot of Drake, like the everything since it feel like everything since maybe views, and that might even be being generous, but everything since views just feels like no, that's a lie. Everything since Scorpion, and we know the story of Scorpion with why it's a double album or how it turned into a double album, all of that. But I think Scorpion and that B side was the last time it felt like Drake decided this is the type of album I'm going to give, and it's going to be condensed, cohesive, have a singular kind of theme sonically, lyrically, and this is like an intentional project that I'm giving to you all, as opposed to a feeling like I'm just throwing a lot of songs that I got with all these people who, want to do a song with me type of vibe. With that being said, what we mentioned earlier, this, as much as it's longer, as much as it has a lot of songs, it still finds a way to be relatively cohesive. I do think there are a lot of songs that aren't needed for the sake of having a more cohesive or just more concise album, but that's just not. I don't think that's the time we in. If Drake want to release 23 songs, he gonna release 23 songs. So, but if this album was 15 songs, and some of those songs are off, not because they bad songs, because they just aren't the best of this crop of songs, then again, we might be able to have a different conversation about it actually being a project that feels intentional and feels like you actually had a direction. Um, and I feel like he's just kind of like 50-50 here. Like he clearly had a direction, but he also just had a lot that I feel like he just threw into the mix. Um, to the point about what Joe Budden said, I think that Drake makes great music. So I don't think that you can ever knock him for that. But if you do listen to a lot of the content and the subject matter of his music, I think sometimes it can be like, have you not kind of grown out of this yet? Like, have you not kind of gotten away from this? Like, why are you still making certain songs or having certain vibes about dealing with women is one thing, but you being the age that you are, dealing with a certain age group is just more so like ain't nothing necessarily wrong, quote unquote, but it's just like you don't really got no reason to be doing that, for that to still be the subject matter that you pulling from because that's what's going on in your life kind of deal. So I think it's more so the idea that like I think the album, at least I feel like the album that somebody like me is looking for from Drake should be more reflective of like, bro, you've been in this game for a while. Like you've seen a lot. And I'd rather get an album more so about you and not your journey like musically, but just an album that's more introspective. Or maybe if this is your introspecting, I'm just shocked because I feel like there like something else should be going on as far as your introspection, with you being who you are and being where you are in the industry. Might just be me being a fan and that just being some shit that a fan wants that's either unnecessary or just asking too much. But that's my only kind of hang up about it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a lot of music that you can play in a Serato. It's a lot of music, it's a lot of different vibes that kind of fit for any occasion per usual. So you can't go wrong with it in terms of good music. But if we're having a conversation about Drake as an artist where he's held and what these projects are doing for that conversation or for that legacy, that's my only kind of like nitpick thing is that I feel like you can go deeper, but I feel like you can touch on something else that would show fans more than just, yeah, I'm messing with these young girls and they showing me how young they are, and that's annoying to me. Obviously, it's annoying to you, bro. You you closing in on 40. So yeah, something a 24, 25-year-old is doing is probably gonna annoy you because it may seem childish to you, but that's what you continue to do, type of deal. So outside of that though, but also that you don't have to put that in your music either. But that's where you pull a lot from, you know, at least I feel like your best pocket, like Heartbreak Drake, that R&B Drake, I do feel like that's his best pocket. And if that's what you pulling from to get that, I guess, but that's my only kind of like nitpick thing. But yeah, that's kind of my overall feelings about the album and the conversations that have been surrounding Drake with this album and just his career at this point. So yeah.
For sure. For all the dogs, it wasn't for you. I don't even think For All the Dogs was necessarily for me. Just hearing certain shit, like even how he starts it, like we ain't think he was gonna start off with the R&B vibes, but easing us in like that, using these samples, a lot of these choices are more so dancey music, more so like vibey. A lot of this shit we said was cool. There's not a lot of rapping, and
That's a great point.
I get that at this point we expect more, but the purpose of this album was for him to do exactly that.
That's a great point. And if that theory was to be true, then absolutely. And because Drake is because he lives for this mystique, in this you never really know. It's always up to interpretation. But that's a really great point because like I was saying, this music isn't. I'm not sitting here saying like, what is Drake doing? This is terrible music.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of music that, like you said, if I'm thinking like, oh, I kind of expect a little bit more rap in Drake, or I kind of, wildly enough, that pocket, like when I realized it was heavy R&B, I'm like, this is cool. Like I'm cool with this. Like this is that Drake bag that we all like recognize him for in terms of like where he started. So in that sense, I can't say like with this album, I don't have the same critiques as of others where it's like, oh, he didn't really choose. No, he chose. He definitely decide with this. So I'm like, cool. I can't be too mad because you let it be clear, like, nah, this is what I'm doing with this album. We with the R&B vibes, soulful vibes, like, and if you get some rapping, it ain't this ain't Churchill's that this ain't Churchill Downs Drake, right? This ain't that rapping Drake. This is I'm just floating. Like my raps are very like I'm not trying to tell you nothing for real. I'm just trying to make good records, which I don't want to say that he wasn't rapping early in his career, but it was more that I'm gonna give y'all these records. He got into that rapping bag. He always show flashes of it, which he does on this album. But yeah, so that's a really great point though. Yeah, I can't knock anything about.
And also just overall feel of this album. This might be the most this is crazy. I know motherfuckers gonna say like I'm wild and it's only been a couple days, whatever the fuck. This is his best album since Scorpion. Or shit. Honestly, if you don't want to count Scorpion as a complete album, this the best shit since Views. Like as a whole project, like even with the knocks and all that, as a whole project, this is solid Drake.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Scorpion becoming a double album because of whatever all the extra noise was at the time. I think that might be the biggest knock to Drake's legacy, because if the goal of Scorpion was to give us virtually B-side and maybe some other stuff sprinkled, in with it.
Yeah.
Drake would have one that nobody could dispute. I personally feel that way. He would have one that nobody can dispute. But because that's not the case, we started on this string of just, all right, well, what you doing? Everything feel all over the place. Agree. This one is one that we not all over the place. you know, you may go into it being critical because it's Drake at this point, but when you
Yeah.
listen to it, it's very clear like what Drake we getting. It's very clear what he wanted to do. And so it just comes down to is a song for you or it ain't. Cause this ain't, you know, like it's a couple songs where it's like, I don't think there's a song that's not for somebody. That's not
Yeah.
community that's gonna be like, no, this song fire. And I think as a music listener, it's no song that I heard that I'm like, I just think this is like terrible music. Like this is trash. It may not be for me like trash in that sense, but this is
Mhm.
music, or it ain't like I can't see somebody else like thinking this is one of the greatest things Drake ever did. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, and also when you at the top, like that's gonna be the case anyway. I don't think you ever gonna have too many, and I don't think it's too many big artists at the top that everybody universally like likes, feels the same about, feels like they don't do no wrong. Like for as much as people love Beyonce, you still got people that are critical of Beyonce, and rightfully so, you know, in some senses. So yeah, but yeah, so yeah, not a bad project at all, bro. Definitely agree with you. Definitely one of his best in recent years,
Yeah.
especially like longer projects he been doing for sure. Yeah, cohesion through 23 tracks is not necessarily an easy feat. So respect to that, at least.